All right, so in this video, we're actually going to be subtracting mixed numbers and whole numbers. But just before we do that, I wanted to kind of give you a reminder of what it's like when we subtract using zeros, because we're going to see some zeros in this problem. So when we think about regular subtraction, we have 28 minus 10. So we're going to be taking 8 minus 0, which we know 8 minus 0 is just 8, because anytime you have a 0 on the bottom, it's just going to stay in 8. And then 2 minus 1 is going to be 18. So no regrouping, no renaming, nothing special here. However, when you have a 0 on the top, you actually have to do what we call ungrouping and renaming. So we know we can't take 0 minus 4. So what we have to do is we have to ungroup the 50. We have to turn this into 40 plus 10. So we basically make this 50 into 40. And then we bring our 10 over. So we still have 10 plus 40 equals 50. So we call that ungrouping and renaming so we can subtract. So now we can take 10 minus 4 is 6, and 4 minus 2 is 2. We're going to use this same skill with subtracting a whole number from a mixed number. Okay, so before we get into our actual problem, let's talk a little bit about ungrouping and renaming. So let's think about the whole number of 9. Okay, now we know that another way of ungrouping 9 could be saying 8 plus 1. Or you could say 9 equals 3 plus 6. So for the purpose of this, what we're doing today is we always want to make it equal to 1 plus whatever equals 9. Or maybe it's 6. So let's say our number is 6. So if we were to ungroup that, we would say 5 plus 1. So that's what we mean by ungrouping. All right, so let's go back to this example of using 9. So we want to make sure we make it equal to something plus 1 in order for this exercise. So we would say 8 plus 1. Or if we were to use the number 6, we could say 5 plus 1. But let's add on. Now we want to change this number 1 and make it equal to a fraction that is equal to 1. So we would say 9 still equals 8 plus, and we could use any fraction that is equal to 1. So let's just say 7 out of 7. So this is another way of writing. We would say another way of ungrouping and renaming. We'd say 9 equals 8 plus 7/7 is the same as 9. Now we could do the same thing with 6. We could use any fraction that is equal to 1, and we could say, okay, then that means 6 could equal 5 plus, let's say, 3/3. Since 3/3 is equal to 1, this is essentially saying 1 plus 5 still equals 6. All right, so now let's put it all together. So we've talked a little bit about ungrouping and renaming. We know that we can't subtract 2/3 from nothing, just like we saw in the original subtraction problem. So we have to put a fraction here in order to solve this. So we're going to ungroup. We're going to make this an 8 and plus 1. But we need to change the 1 into a fraction that's equal to 1. Now, I don't want to just use any fraction because I have a denominator of 3. So I want to make sure whatever fraction I use, I have a denominator of 3 that is equal to 1. So think about that for a moment. What fraction would have a denominator of 3 that is equal to 1? So we would say that 3/3 is equal to 1, and it has a denominator of 3. So we can use that fraction here. So we have 1 plus 8 still equals 9, because we know our fraction 3/3 equals 9. So now we're ready to subtract. So we have ungrouped, we have renamed it, we have made a fraction equal to 1, so we still have the value of 9 here, and we have chosen a common denominator, which is 3. So let's go ahead and subtract our whole numbers of 8 minus 3, which equals 5. And let's subtract our numerators. 3 minus 2 equals 1. And we're always going to keep that common denominator. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this one. So go ahead and pause the video and see if you can solve this on your own. Remember to ungroup and rename your whole number. Make a fraction that's equal to 1, and make sure you use a common denominator. All right, so let's go ahead and solve this problem together and check your work. So first off, we know we can't subtract from nothing. So we are going to ungroup our 6 and we're going to change it into a 5 plus 1. But our 1 is going to be in the form of a fraction that's equal to 1. And since my denominator is already a 7, I'm going to choose to make a fraction equal to 1 that has a denominator of 7. So we would now just subtract our problem. We have 7 sevens, which is equal to 1, plus 5 still equals 6. Okay, so let's go ahead and subtract our whole numbers. So let's subtract 2 and 5, which is 3. Let's subtract our two numerators. 7 minus 4 is 3. And we're going to keep our denominator. So that is how you subtract a mixed number from a whole number.